Hey everyone, this next couple weeks we're going to be in Kingston, Ontario, which is super exciting because it lies just on the other side of Lake Ontario from Toronto, between Toronto and Ottawa, and is very close to New York, actually just across the water. So we are going to be interviewing some amazing agents, taking a look at how the Kingston market differs from the Ottawa market, differs from a couple of the small towns that we've seen, and where there's similarities. And I'm really excited, based on some conversations I've already had with some agents before filming, where we're gonna go this week and the kinds of homes we're gonna get into, like, learning a little bit more about this area real estate wise. And I think it's gonna be another area that I wish I had more time in. Hey everyone, welcome to Real Estate en Route. My name is Tim Souza, and this week we are coming at you from Kingston, and I am with Luca Andolfatto.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. I got it right. And we are here in a home that he has listed on the market. Luca, tell us a little bit maybe about yourself, how long you've been in real estate, and then we can jump into where we are in Kingston and what this home's doing. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, not to bore everybody, but I've been in real estate, this is my 30th year. So I started at university, graduated from Queens, 22 years old. And with my political studies degree, and at the time, I guess, looking through the sort of job landscape here locally, I didn't want to manage a shoe store or a McDonald's franchise. Not that there's anything wrong with that,
right,
but
of course.
Just that wasn't my calling. So I replied to an ad at the time for a new real estate brokerage that was opening in Kingston, which is no longer in Kingston. And it was then when the broker that I interviewed me told me about the courses and whatnot, and we got started the process. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Sweet. So you've been in business for about 30 years. Now tell us about Kingston. You've obviously been here. That's a decent chunk of time. You'll have seen the city expand.
Absolutely. Born and raised, and lived here my entire adult life. Raised a family here too, so I've experienced all of it. And Kingston has changed dramatically. There's no question about it. The development here has grown considerably. There's a lot of development happening in the west end of Kingston, which is essentially where we are. We're like sort of in the southern quadrant of the city, but in the northwest quadrant is where a majority of the development has been happening. It's happening.
New builds over the last how long?
Yeah, well, but definitely the last decade,
for
sure, if not 15 years. Subdivisions have continued to expand as the need has
arisen.
Arisen, exactly. And not to exclude the east end of Kingston, though, for those that would watch this, because that's another quadrant of the city. Sort of the delineation mark is the Cattarauquois River. So when we refer to the east end, if you're a Kingstonian, it means across the river. So you can take the causeway over to the east part of Kingston where RMC is located. So again, there's some development that's happened there, and not to the same extent that's happened in the west end. I wouldn't give you a definitive answer on why that. I'm sure everyone has their own opinion. I think the availability of land and developable land, just the development philosophies were different in the west end of Kingston than they have been in the east end of Kingston.
Are those two different municipal jurisdictions?
They were originally, and before Kingston amalgamated, right? So this is the former Kingston Township. In the east end it was formerly called Pittsburgh Township, and then you had the city of Kingston, and then amalgamation happened late 90s, and so then it became the city of Kingston.
So that might have a little bit to do with how...
Potentially, yeah. It's still by all intents and purposes, a fairly small community,
How many people are in Kingston?
If you go by the official sign off the 401, it's 125,000 or something. I would say if you include all of the hamlets in and around Kingston, so going within maybe a 20-30 minute radius, which would include hamlets like Inverary, Sydenham, Harrowsmith, which people live out in those areas, still work in Kingston, commute back and forth.
That's not a far.
I would say my guess would be you're somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 to 175,000 people personally. So that would be my guess. I'd have to say that since January, it's certainly one of the most robust markets I've ever been in.
Okay.
That being said, it's also one of the more challenging markets I've ever been in.
Okay, why is that? What's the challenge? And
so one of the ongoing market trends that's been ongoing for the last several years and continuing is scarcity of inventory, lack of inventory.
Right.
And that's an ongoing trend that will continue. You can read that there's lots of articles about it statistically, not only here in Canada, but in the US, North America. It's a trend where there's just a continuing scarcity of inventory. So
it's fascinating because we've been hearing that in Ottawa, we've been hearing that throughout all the small towns in between. Like even Smiths Falls has had scarcity of inventory.
Absolutely, and so the thing though, the other piece of that though, which is I think maybe come across has been a little bit unexpected, certainly for me, is the sustained demand that's still there in the marketplace. Because for a while I've seen a buyer's market, I've seen a seller's market. In a buyer's market, there's usually an overabundance of inventory, just not enough buyers to buy the inventory, right? So, and I've seen a balanced market, I've seen all of that. So now though, even with that scarcity of inventory, there's still a demand that's still sustaining, that's creating this sort of pent up, market conditions where we're seeing usually on not every case, but it's certainly property dependent, location dependent, price point dependent, but you're seeing, property selling for over asking price. You're seeing multiple offers on more and more often. Really? In fact, the trend now for realtors when we list properties is to actually list them, have a date set for which the seller will entertain offers, and usually they're getting more than one, and the property will either sell for the asking price or over the asking price.
So you're just saying like, hey, we'll have an open house this weekend, but we're not accepting offers till Tuesday, so get them in.
That's right.
Monday night, midnight, we'll review them on Tuesday.
That's right. Yeah.
Interesting.
So
what is the low end of the market now versus like what you're seeing low versus high in the Kingston?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. So I guess low end of the market would be anything 300,000 and under. High end of the market would be anything essentially 500 and over. So.
Okay, and so you're seeing a lot more of the inventory in what part? Because you're saying
all over, really. I mean, that's one of the nice things about Kingston too, is we have such a wide variety of properties, in terms of condominiums, townhome condominiums that are in those, and still you can buy a townhome condominium under $200,000. Apartment condominiums you can still buy under, some of them you can buy under $150,000. Now again, that lifestyle is not for everyone, but again, it fills a need and it suits, serves a purpose. Coming into the west end of Kingston, your average price point is truly probably $375 to $450 now, for just a detached home somewhere and I think the average, because they always say the average price of it, which is your sort of traditional 3-bedroom bungalow, I think in Kingston now is pushing $375,000 or $380,000.
So talk to me about this home. So what do we have in this home? Tell me the history of this home.
Yeah, so this is, as I alluded to earlier, there was a sort of little nondescript bungalow here, on this lot, and the gentleman that purchased it bought it with the intention in mind that this was a place that he wanted to build this, the home that he wanted on a lot that would accommodate it, right? And he built it himself with he's fortunate that he had a son-in-law that's in the trades that helped him build it. So it was a project they worked on together.
It looks amazing. It's
stunning, yes. And then certainly as far as the quality of features. And when I say that, it's not just the lipstick in terms of, style of flooring, the countertops, the cabinets, the lighting. I'm talking about the, what I call the guts of a home, which is, there's some hiddens here, invisibles that people don't necessarily appreciate, and they don't necessarily pay you for, but that are here in terms of mechanicals. It's built to a level of what most builders call an Energy Star rating, right?
Okay, what's an Energy Star rating?
Well, it meets certain basically energy conservation levels in terms of R factors, so insulating values. There's certain systems built into the mechanicals in terms of recovery, so it's basically a more environmentally friendly home. Correct. Yeah, 3-bedroom bungalow. It's just around 1,800 square feet.
Okay.
Again, you got the vaulted ceilings, you've got the pot lights, you've got transoms over the windows, you've got, the wide plank hardwood flooring, just the higher than normal profile trim work, quartz on the countertops, all those kinds of things, which people come to expect now in new construction, actually, to be honest with you. It's pretty standard stuff.
Pretty standard.
And so these areas, because it's an area now for younger families, there's, this backyard's quite large, so you can put a pool in if you wanted to, play sets. You don't necessarily have to go to the park. You can have kids playing in your yard and not have to worry about where they are or anything like that. So.
Is there any questions that I kind of haven't asked that you were like, Tim, I really wanted to talk about this?
I've never treated anyone like a paycheck. I'm proud to say that. And in fact, just a small little segue, a little story.
Please go for it. Yeah.
This story will remain with me for even if I do write memoirs or not. But I was dealing with this fellow. He was actually German, from Germany, coming to relocate to Canada to start a business. And he had this very unique business, and he needed a certain specific style of property. And we scoured everywhere, and I worked hard with him but it was just such a niche thing and everything, and the Kingston area just didn't offer what he was looking for. And then one day he sent me an email and said, Luca, you know what, I ended up getting what I wanted over in Dunrobin, of all places, right outside of Ottawa. And then in the end, he said, Luca, he sent me a personal check for $10,000 for my time and effort. I still have that check.
Wow.
And just because he valued my time and effort and experience and knowledge and that I put into helping him.
So tell us maybe a little bit then about what sets you apart. What do you do for your clients?
Well, I'm very candid with my clients, and sometimes probably that doesn't go over well, but I wear it here, and I tell people, my line is I tell people what they need to know, not necessarily what they want to hear or need to hear, right? In terms of what they're expecting to hear. So, no, I've been always very frank and candid with my clients. I tell them exactly what it is and what they need to do to arrive at it. Not everybody wants to hear it, and not everybody cares to hear it. Yeah. So it's up to them to choose. But I think the goal for me always has been to give everybody enough information, enough qualified information, so that they can make the best informed decision they can make.
Right, so you kind of lay everything out in front of them. And you're
at the end of the day, I'm not here to stand in anyone's way to buy whatever they want to buy or sell whatever they want to sell. That's not my job. Is actually, I have to sell real estate to earn a living. I am fully appreciative of that and understand that. But at the end of the day, you also have to allow people to make appropriate decisions too, right? It's not just about...
Well, you're aiding them in the process of making their decisions.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I can't count the number of times that I've told people not to sell their properties at a certain time.
Really?
And to wait. Yeah.
Luca, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks very much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Really this is a lot of fun, and I've learned so much about Kingston and just for me, it's the details. The devil's in the details, but it's also learning about how the dynamics of the city have worked and have grown. So thank you very much. I know that it's an old town, but there's buildings from the 1700s.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm just when was the last time I was in the town with the buildings from the 1700s? But to know there's new builds and the city's growing and it's expanding and coming of age, as you said. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. You're welcome.
See you guys.
Good. Take care.